Yo, what is up, Knotfest friends? I am your friend, Brian J. Downey, and with me is Mr. Patrick Galante, drummer of the band Ice Nine Kills.
What's going on, guys?
Woo! Have a seat,
Do we
sir.
sit? We sit?
We can sit, we can stand,
Do like
or we can lay.
This is like where my drum throne kind of is, like this high, so this feels comfortable.
I appreciate that. That's a high drum throne.
I know. Well, it's about hip flexors. So if you sit too low, it's actually more work to get your leg to go up like this. And if you sit a little higher, it's kind of easier.
See, we've already started the educational portion.
I don't even teach. This is crazy.
Yeah, I like it. So I see you got the black and whiskey hat on.
Yeah, I enjoyed some of that whiskey yesterday at Aftershock, actually.
Yeah, so there's a band associated with that, and I feel like maybe your band played with them. Is that correct?
Metallica? Is that?
Yeah, from Metallica shows to Slipknot shows. I mean, how does that feel in this? You're one of those like years in the making overnight sensations.
Yeah, it's pretty unbelievable. When we first got the call from our booking agent that said, "Hey, Metallica's interested in you guys opening up some of their stadium shows this year," and we had just done, I think, Louder Than Life Fest with them, and in February we got the call, and Spencer was like, "Hey, what are you doing on February 25th?" Like, it's like a normal thing to be I got a bartending gig that night, can't really make it. It's like, well, Metallica wants us to play in Vegas. So I, as the person in the band that actually keeps all of our trailer, like our personal trailer, and then all of our gear in Buffalo, basically we said, if we're going to do this Vegas show, how are we going to get all of our gear there? And I was like, I'll just drive to Vegas. So we rented a van, and I hooked up our trailer, I loaded it up, and I drove 73 hours to Vegas. We were there for a week. We did the show. It was amazing. It was at the new Raiders Stadium. Huge place.
No
really
pressure.
Awesome. Yeah, right. Like the first main thing to happen in this place. It's called the Death Star. Like, it's awesome. Drove 73 hours to Vegas, played the show, drove like 65 hours back home, and then we got the call to do more. It was like, okay.
The ones you did later were closer to where the gear lives, at least.
Yeah, the one show was in Buffalo, actually. So I got the privilege of playing, the Bills Stadium, my home stadium, which was absolutely surreal. All my friends and family there just out of their mind. The news showed up and did an interview with me. Like, my friends say, "Oh, my parents saw you on the news," because kids don't watch the news anymore. But, people that are even my age were like, "Yeah, I didn't see it, but my mom called me and said, that Patrick guy, I saw him on the news last night."
That's when you know you've made it.
Yeah, when my friends' parents are talking about me.
So you mentioned Buffalo, and this actually brings up an important question for me personally that's hopefully interesting to everyone else. Where exactly is Ice Nine Kills from? Now, that's normally an easily Googleable question for any band, but I was talking to JB from August Burns Red this morning, he's from Pennsylvania, and he mentioned that someone in Ice Nine Kills is a neighbor of his, and I tend to see Spencer here in California, so, like, what the hell? Like, where are you guys from at this point?
It's kind of one of those things where you have to just pick the place where the founding member is from. So seeing as Spencer is from Salem, Boston, that area, I think that it comes up that Ice Nine Kills is from Salem because it's spooky and it fits the aesthetic.
Sure.
But the iterations of the Ice Nine Kills band have all been either from Salem originally, and then I think like more the second iteration of the band was all a bunch of guys from Rochester, which is actually very close to Buffalo as well. And the band that I originally started touring and playing in, Affiance, had done 2 tours with that band of Ice Nine Kills. So I got to know these guys very well, and then when it came time for them to replace their drummer who left, they had called me, so then it became a Salem, Rochester, Buffalo thing, and now it's Salem, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, Buffalo, L.A., Allentown. It's all over the place now.
Yeah, it's like when Pantera was like Texas and New Orleans, and you get to a certain point where people spread out.
And at a level like this, when you're playing in a smaller band that needs to like rehearse and practice on a schedule because you all have other jobs and you can't really travel that much to form a band. Now we're at a point where, depending on if a tour starts on the West Coast or the East Coast, there are meeting points that we have for rehearsals and production days. Sometimes it's in Lancaster, sometimes it's in Vegas, sometimes we've even done one in St. Louis. So it's kind of at a point now where we can all convene and it's not that big of an issue.
Yeah, that's great. How am I just now learning that you were in Affiance? That was like a Bullet Tooth record?
Yes, actually. Yeah. I was actually just texting with Josh Grabel from Bullet Tooth, Trustkill. I'm going to do a little top 10 Trustkill favorites of all time list for him. But when Trustkill first changed their name to Bullet Tooth, Affiance was the first band signed to Bullet Tooth Records. And that was the band that I joined in 2009 and toured up until we stopped touring in 2017. And then we just rebranded as a band called Night Rider with new like 80s synth metal stuff. So it's actually pretty cool getting to play in a few different bands and then still having this tie with the guys in Affiance, and still being able to do this with Ice Nine is really awesome, because Affiance was more of my baby and Ice Nine is more of like these are the guys that I play drums for. I feel really part of it, but it's there's that little difference between the thing that you started 13 years ago.
Yeah. It's like Jason Newsted loved being in Metallica, but Flotsam and Jetsam was like his band. He wrote all the lyrics.
Yeah, exactly.
He booked all the shows.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like I totally get it. So the last time I saw you was actually, speaking of Salem, near Salem at the Ice Nine Kills Silver Scream Con. Anybody hear that or go to that or know about it or watch videos?
We're a little far away from Danvers,
We're a little far away from there. We're on the other side of the country. Well, it's actually good that none of you were there, because we can talk a little bit about it. Putting that whole thing together, participating, I mean, what was that? I
mean, I know that, Spencer's been on this kick for the past, almost year and a half since stuff started getting going again, that he's been doing these horror conventions that he's being invited to make appearances at, and he's starting to meet all of these really, really awesome people in the horror world, which obviously aligns directly with us, and kind of having Ice Nine Kills now being known in the horror world as more than just a band is really awesome. And when his experience with going to these cons and doing these cons, the idea to do our own came up, and it was just supernatural how it all came together. The dudes from Astronomicon, who do the convention with Twisted, were a huge part of this, and it was just really cool to be.
Whoop whoop.
Yeah, whoop whoop. Really cool to be just in that. It's like a whole different kind of monster.
Absolutely, and it's somebody who's had kind of a foot in both worlds. I've been going to horror conventions for a long time. Probably my favorite thing about Ice Nine Kills horror convention is that the room for every panel was packed. And the first thing I would ask at every panel was like, hey, I know everybody here loves metal. I know everybody here loves horror. Who here is at your first horror convention? And it was every hand went up.
Yeah, I mean, even like us, like the guys in the band, we were all like, we did the one in Florida that we played the after show at, and that was like my first experience with that kind of stuff, and being able to be in the hotel where it was all taking place, being able to walk around and meet everybody, and not be as swamped and recognized as Spencer would be, but being able to kind of share the light a little bit, but also kind of be in the back and see how everything was
best
working.
Best of both worlds.
Was really cool. The best part about that whole weekend was that there were 3 weddings at the
in the same hotel. There's like people
normal
walking around in fancy wedding garb, and then people dressed as Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees.
Like, I can't imagine booking my wedding there and being like getting there and seeing all of the fucking weirdos that were out there and being like, this is what my big day is. And it's just dudes covered in blood, like screaming at karaoke.
But yeah, it was really killer to see, no pun intended, what that Ice Nine Kills is bringing this audience into that horror culture and community. So it's a very give and take and sharing between the two.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of discovery on both ends. People coming for the music that are getting the chance to meet Ari Lehman and all these big names in horror, and maybe not you would never expect in your life that you'd be able to meet the dude who plays Michael Myers, but you're at this Ice Nine Kills festival, so
Right.
so now you are, and vice versa. You know, somebody who's coming to get someone's autograph that happens to catch the Ice Nine Kills set is now an Ice Nine Kills fan, and it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, and you mentioned Ari, who played Jason Voorhees in the very first Friday the 13th.
Not what you're thinking though. He's the kid that comes out of the water.
He was the kid version. Yeah. And now he has a metal band called First Jason.
And they are awesome.
During the convention, there was a show that was First Jason,
Twisted,
our good friends in Twisted, and Ice Nine Kills, and you actually played in a movie theater.
Yeah, it was super fitting. This old theater. There was no standing room. It's always funny when you play a venue like that that's all seats and balconies and all this, because it is a metal show. But at the end of the day, I actually saw something today that puts this together well. Is that it's such a whole experience. It's such a whole theatrical experience, and it's really a show, a lot like Slipknot's, and it's people aren't really looking to move around and mosh that much anymore, because they're so just engulfed in what's actually going on the stage. And it doesn't really bother me anymore when people aren't moving or there's no energy. It's because everyone's just staring in awe at what's going on.
And by the way, I should definitely say, so nobody behind me kills me later, Knotfest.com, you can watch interviews with Ari from First Jason, with the guys from Twisted, with Spencer, with everybody involved in that convention. We were proud to be a big part of it. And if there's a Silver Scream Con 2 next year...
I think that is definitely in the works. We've had a lot of questions at our VIPs throughout this tour that's hey, would you be doing one convention again, or would you do multiple ones? And, it's cool that our first convention was as successful as it was, and all the people involved were we've never seen a convention in its first year do anything like this. I still think we're maybe a few years away from bringing it on the road, but if there's anybody willing to travel for an Ice Nine Kills convention, there definitely will be one next year, and it will definitely be in Massachusetts.
Hell yeah. And that dovetails nicely into this whole Knotfest extravaganza, and you guys being out with Slipknot. So going from, there's the punk rock side of driving all your gear cross country to then play a giant venue with Metallica, the biggest metal band in the world.
The dichotomy is pretty crazy.
The dichotomy of playing in a movie theater near Salem and then being out with Slipknot. What sort of conversations do you guys have? What are the logistics of tailoring your set to a stage like this one, the show we're going to see today, versus what you do in a movie theater?
It's different because it's not our show. You know what I mean? Coming into something like this, we really wanted to appeal to Slipknot fans, where we opened for Metallica, and we kind of played a lot more of our, we wanted to be the heavy band on that bill, especially having it be Ice Nine, Greta Van Fleet, Metallica. We were able to come out and kind of scare people a little early who were there.
You may have had the only blast beats.
Yeah. I think I can still play kick faster than Lars, maybe. I don't know. So coming out early and really making an impression with a crowd like that, I think the mindset's a little different with Slipknot fans, because we wanted to come out and make the impression of we are heavy enough to keep up with these dudes. So putting a set list together that starts with Funeral Derangements, which is arguably one of our heaviest popular songs. We've never done that, but coming in, we just thought man, what's gonna get people hyped that Ice Nine Kills is on the show, and coming out that strong with that song, it's kind of just appealing to who we're playing with and what we think that their fans are going to be fans of.
And that's what you get back here in the VIP experience, is a little spoiler for the set list.
Yeah, now you know one song, everyone.
And where it is in the set. And obviously there's a lot of crossover between Slipknot and Ice Nine with just the theatricality and how much we put into production.
Yeah, we were nervous about wearing masks because everyone's going to be like, these fucking posers copying Slipknot. But it's different, man.
It is different. Just like Slipknot's different than Kiss, and all down the line. There's a place for everything under the big tent here. The last question then about tailoring the show is, obviously, and for those of you who don't know, oftentimes when you're touring with a band, there's not much room on stage. And it's not even always an ego thing, but it's like the headlining band has all their stuff out. And then the main support has stuff out. And then the opening band, it's like sometimes you have no room on stage. I know that Slipknot, and I'm not just saying this because I'm part of Knotfest, I know that Slipknot goes out of their way to be more accommodating than most to the bands they take, because they're involved in choosing every band.
Yeah.
And they don't want you to have a shitty show.
I can 100% agree with that.
Yeah, so I would imagine it was maybe a little easier than you might have anticipated, yeah?
Yeah, we had, referencing the Metallica show again, because I think that's the only thing that I have that's on the same caliber as this.
You guys haven't opened for Iron Maiden yet, right? That's
no, not yet. We did. Iron Maiden and Megadeth played Download, though. So we did play with them.
You can't say share the stage, as they say.
The space that we had for like that show was very limited, and we were the opener, so Greta's stuff had to stay, and I kind of had to set my drums up to the side, and like whenever you're expecting to be in the middle and then you're not, it's kind of just throws everything off. It throws out the balance of what's going on. And coming into this, being the direct support band and having some of our production still from the Trinity of Terror tour that we had just gotten off of, we were able.
Anybody see the Trinity of Terror tour? Yeah, now we're talking.
He's wearing it right there. Perfect.
Black Veil Brides, Motionless and White, Ice Nine Kills.
Leg 3 coming at you in 10 days. That's right. We get 10 days off.
I remember seeing the Hella Mega tour, the Green Day, Weezer, Fall Out Boy. It was one of the first big tours back after the pandemic. And it did twice the business of Green Day's biggest tour ever, which was American Idiot, 3 times the business of Fall Out Boy's biggest tour in 2016, and 3 times Weezer's biggest tour, which was in the 90s. Has that been your experience, combining these 3 bands? And it's because I was like, someone needs to do this in metal.
Yeah.
And you guys did it.
Well, being able to like share production and being able to have, it'd be tough for one of these 3 bands to take the stage with a full LED wall and with ramps and stairs and all this cool shit that we like to see bigger metal bands do. If it was just one of us, we probably wouldn't have been able to do that. But because it was all 3, we were able to take advantage of the fact that we can all share a video wall and all share the same like stage layout. We have like different nuances that are different here and there, but being able to share everything and then being able to put that show in a room 3 times the size of what one band by themselves could do is really, really awesome.
It's such a perfect lineup, too, because it's one of those lineups where it's like every band could make an argument why they're bigger than the other 2.
Oh, and we do it all the time.
Yeah, and it's nice to just see everyone set that aside and be like, let's just put on the show we want to see.
Exactly. Everybody plays the same time. We basically like randomize who gets to headline that night, even though it's 3 1-hour sets or whatever. It's very cool. And, there are some days where you're like, oh, yes, we get to open. That means I can, like, kind of relax later. And then there are shows where you're like, yes, we get to headline because it's, a hometown show or something like that. It's been really fun being on tour with the same group of people, coming up on 3 times now. Because it's like, it's like you guys never really get to be apart. You come back and you're like, oh, I haven't seen Justin Morrow in, 2 weeks. Now I get to spend another 4 weeks with him. It's fun.
Yeah, and you have stories to tell because then they're like, what was it like being out with Slipknot? You're like, let me tell you about that.
Let me tell you about that.
That's awesome. Well, dude, thanks so much for coming and hanging out with us, hanging out with all the Knotfest VIP.
Thank you for having me.
And Premium Club members. I hope you guys are all following all the various Knotfest socials and keeping up with all the stuff we're doing because it's not just Slipknot. It's heavy culture and the wide berth that Slipknot has given us to cover the bands and people and movies and things that we all love.
I will say, the first Knotfest in San Bernardino, I was filling in drums for a band called Miss May I. And
wow.
I remember that's like one of the biggest shows I had ever played at the time. And there was a circle pit around the sound booth that happened the entire song.
That's dope.
And also just like piles of goat shit on fire and stuff, which was weird, but whatever. It's Slipknot.
As you do. Shout out to Levi. Shout out to Miss May I. That's incredible, dude.
Oh, yeah.
A jobbing drummer, as they say.
I've had some jobs.
That's awesome, dude. Thanks so much, man.
Thanks for having me. Oh, wait. Let's
what are we doing?
Do it.
We did it.